Now I'm sure that the greatest practical and spiritual navigational tool in life is to pay attention and give attention to where your joy is. Passion and joy are the same thing. I think when any of us look at what is my next move, what happens if, remember, your compass is an internal something in you that points to joy. And you are always safest if you say, I'm going to stay oriented to my joy to the best of my ability day by day.
Genuine success isn't measured by external accomplishments alone. It flows from an inner wellspring of presence, joy, and spiritual alignment. My guest on today's show is Patrick Combs, a Hall of Fame speaker who has transformed leadership thinking for millions across 30 years of speaking. He's addressed Fortune 500 companies while personally coaching CEOs and is a 5-time author with 150,000 books sold. In our conversation, we talk about how spiritual practices can become the foundation for extraordinary professional performance. Patrick shares why presence trumps preparation in high-stakes situations and how accessing your inner joy creates better business outcomes than any strategy alone. We explore his journey from achievement-driven success to spiritually grounded significance, revealing how principles from the Course in Miracles have enhanced his leadership effectiveness. Patrick explains the relationship between consciousness and career impact, plus practical methods for maintaining spiritual centeredness in corporate environments. We also examine why following your bliss leads to both personal fulfillment and professional excellence, and how to navigate the illusion of separation that keeps us from our true power. This episode offers spiritual tools that can enhance your approach to success and professional effectiveness. So without any further ado, on with the show. Patrick, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stephan, thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, so we met at an event called Next Level Experience many years ago, over a decade ago. And I was just really impressed with your stage presence and your, I don't know, just the way that you presented yourself. And then, of course, later on, I discovered that you were a Hall of Fame speaker. I've had a few Hall of Fame speakers on over the years on this show. Steve Spangler, Sam Richter, for example. And I'm curious, like, how do you end up getting the Hall of Fame speaker status? Is that something that you just got invited to and you had no idea, or is that something you have to apply for? Like, what happened there?
I was invited without any idea to it. And I'm in what's called the Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame, and it was set up by an individual who runs a website on that. He put me in there and then told me that, and it was based on how my work with over 1 million college students speaking on over 1,000 college campuses.
Wow, that's impressive. So what would you speak about on these campuses that was so important for the administration and the professors to ensure that the students heard?
Well, I was going to say I was mostly being chosen by students, which I really take pride in. But I would say 50% of the time I was chosen either by a student who said, that's the topic I want to hear, or I was chosen by career services. But in both cases, it was to bring me in to help students understand the value of their passion and how to use their time in college outside of the classroom in order to prepare to be able to live a life and have a career based on their passion.
Right. And so what would you tell people who are listening or watching this interview now about how they can prepare, given AI is, according to some estimates, AI is going to put half the planet out of work in the next 3 years. I just saw a statistic, or a prediction, I should say, from Goldman Sachs saying that 300 million jobs over the next 12 months will disappear. And some people might be frightened by that. And is there such a thing as having a career anymore?
Yeah, it's such a great question, and one that I think about myself. And my first thing that I'd remind all of us together is that we're all in it together. So if we get fear or worry or concern about it, that's because we begin to isolate the problem just to us. It feels like it's just happening to us. But notice how you feel differently the minute you say, wait a minute, millions of people Perhaps everybody on the planet will be in the same boat together, whatever happens. That always makes me feel better than, oh, I might lose my job. It's better when you realize, wait, everybody is facing a future where we all might have a completely different structure and none of us know what that looks like yet. So we're all going to find out together. And I think that removes most of the fear. If you think, it's not just you, we'll all be going through it together. The second thing that I find fascinating is that I started my career at 26 talking to students about following their passion because somehow I already knew as a young person that that was one of the greatest navigational tools for life itself. I don't really know how I knew that, but I did know it. Well, I'm 59 years old now, and 33 years later, I'm more sure about what I knew in my 20s. Now I'm sure that the greatest practical and spiritual navigational tool in life is to pay attention and give attention to where your joy is. Passion and joy are the same thing. When at any time in life, I think when any of us look at what is my next move, what happens if, remember, your compass is an internal something in you that points to joy. And you are always safest if you say, I'm going to stay oriented to my joy to the best of my ability day by day. My life experience has given me clear, compelling evidence that life is more supportive, each and every one of us without exception, to the degree that we give attention to our joy.
Hmm. So how do you do that, you personally? Because day to day, there are a lot of days in between your like keynote presentations or doing one-man shows or having, big events that are magic moments for you, but you must have magic moments every single day in order to spark that joy. So what are those for you?
Thank you for asking. I find them every single day. I think they're abundant once you learn like how abundant they are, the abundant opportunities. So I'll give you specific examples from my life, but my life is, oh, it sounds really joyful to have a cup of coffee first and read some Course in Miracles. That's truly the most joyful thing I can think to start the day. Oh, it sounds really joyful to step outside and watch the birds for a few minutes. That's truly joyful. Oh, okay, here's my project list. The most joyful thing on the list looks like maybe I'll tweak the Airbnb business. Maybe I'll go in there and adjust the listing and see if I can make the listing better. What's the next most joyful thing? You know what? I'd actually think of all the things I could do. I think I would be really nice to go out and pull some weeds and mow the lawn and take a little 15 minutes to do that. So and that's when it gets really interesting to me when you start to notice, wait a minute, is it sometimes joyful to mow the lawn or to do the dishes? And the answer is yes,
Yeah, well, I would hope
absolutely.
so. I would hope so.
Yeah,
If somebody says
yes,
no,
absolutely.
they're
So
missing out.
I like the way you framed it, which was you sure it's joyful to go out and do a one-person show for an audience in a theater, but it is equally joyful if you're choosing it in an authentic moment to clean your kitchen.
Yeah. Well,
And it's
everything can be a
just,
prayer, right? Everything can be like
yeah,
all your day can be a prayer, living your life as a prayer.
yeah. So I have tons of hobbies because they're joyful to me. I have the aquarium as a hobby. I have guitar as a hobby. I have reading as a hobby. I have studying the life of Will Rogers as a hobby. I have photography as a hobby. So I find that's how I stay in touch with joy. My relationship is joyful as a significant other, as a parent. So the only asterisk to it is, do we sometimes do things that aren't joyful? Yeah, sometimes life requires us to do things that aren't joyful. But that doesn't mean that anybody should fall into a pattern of living a life where they're not finding joy every single day, because joy is available every single day. And I would hope that each one of us can get to a place where we lay our head on the pillow at night and we look for the moments of joy that day that surround the moments of responsibility.
Yeah. And you called this earlier a spiritual tool. So how does this help you stay in touch with your creator? How does it help you to be in alignment with your creator's will?
Well, my higher self knows that joy is the vibration of God. So if I'm made in the likeness of God, and God is a vibration of joy, which is indistinguishable from a vibration of love, and I approach that vibration more often, then for me, that is coming closer to God. That is living more truly into the image that I am made from.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I heard, I forget from where, but that it's really, this is an illusion where all that is real here is love, is God. It's all that's real, and everything else is illusion. Do you subscribe to that philosophy?
Entirely, I'm a student of Course in Miracles, and A Course in Miracles makes that point exactly over and over and over. It gets into some pretty strange territory because and new physics tells us that this is an illusion of some sort, that there is no such actual thing as space, time, or distance. So it's interesting to watch new science come around and begin to dovetail and mirror what sages have been saying for eternity, that this is an illusion. However, as a guy, I also have to deal with, I love that stuff and I eat it up and I study it and I read it and I contemplate it. But at the same time, I like to acknowledge, but boy, doesn't the illusion feel real. In the vast majority of my life, although I can conceptually grasp that this is an illusion or a hologram, if you wanted to call it, or a computer program, whatever metaphor you wanted to give it, it feels so real that I also want to live in a way that mirrors my feeling that it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
like
it's kind
you
of
walk through
grounded, right?
both worlds simultaneously. The
Yeah.
that this is an illusory world, and you're, acting as your higher self, but also, hey, I've got to pay the bills. I have to be responsible. I've got to take my kid to school or whatever the thing is. That's just as important because you're drawing the energy down and bringing it into the physical reality. You're not flying high in the clouds all day long and forgetting to pay your bills.
Yeah, beautiful. Where I found my current resolve is that Course in Miracles, in and of itself, says something that's very helpful. It says, this reality is your perception and nothing more. The only thing real in this reality is the loving actions you do. And you'll come to recognize that when you depart from this perception, this dream that you stirred up and that you're in. But where I find my resolve is it says, the wonderful thing is, as you learn to be more loving here to all, in all ways, your perception will change. It will become increasingly heaven-like. Although it will still be unreal, it will be friendlier and more loving and more beautiful. And you will know that you're approaching your true nature, who you truly are, until one day you will have no more need for the dream and you will awake and it won't be here. So when I go, is there an exit? Like if this is an illusion, there's an exit. That's where I'm told, and I lean into believing that's how to find the exit, is just learn to be more loving here to all the time. Watch my world shift to reflecting back at me as more beautiful, more kind, more supportive, and more loving. And I will know I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah. That brings a new definition to the phrase exit strategy.
Well said. Yeah. I love the term awaken because awaken from what? I used to wonder when I was young, awaken from what? And now I assume, yeah, awaken from the dream I'm having.
Yeah.
Spirituality means here's tools to awaken you gently from the dream you're having that you believe is so real and often so nightmarish. But it's a dream, but you need to be gently awakening you. And someday you'll awake and say, oh boy, I was in a dream.
Mm. Yeah. I like to say that reality isn't real, it's just hyper realistic.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I live in the hyper realistic, but I try to orientate myself towards the exit strategy, as you said. And what surprises me is that in my 10 years of practice, based on Eckhart Tolle's work and Course in Miracles work and minor other spiritual teachings, I am absolutely convinced by personal experience that it is making my world more beautiful. My perceptual world is shifting right in front of my very eyes to be the safer, friendlier, more beautiful place. that spiritual sages said it would become, because it's all my projection.
Yeah. We were talking about the exit strategy and all that. A scene came to mind from the Truman Show, where Truman discovers the exit and it's up in the sky. There's a there's a dome and he's able to exit. And he says those
Yeah, he finds the
famous
door.
words, "Good night, good evening," and whatever he said. Yeah, that was really
Yeah,
cool. I love that
yeah.
movie.
That's a great movie. It's such a great metaphor.
And
Yeah.
if you recognize that everything that you say and think is on display for who knows how many trillions of souls, and they can all experience everybody's reality simultaneously. So everyone has an audience and it's huge. You might show up differently in the private moments.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because there are no such things as private thoughts,
Not in one mind, right?
right? I mean, we're all one.
Our minds are all one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, everything is oneness, right? In the Bible, it says that, hear, O Israel, God is our God and God is one. That means there's
I only
nothing
speak the
but
way.
God. There's only love. Nothing else exists.
Boy, that is exactly the same page as what informs me, what I study. Exactly. I was only going to I was only kind of responding to my own internal distinction that the body is the device of the ego to imply separation, because as bodies we are not one and we can see we are not one. But that's an illusion. The mind, however, is for certain one. We can't see it. We can't say, oh, your mind ends there and my mind ends here. So I found my truth about oneness, about oneness, when I recognize, oh, if you're saying there is one mind, there is no boundary. I say, yeah, there is mind.
Yeah. Something I learned from a holy book called the Tanya, which was written by a sage 150, 200 years ago, something like that. Rabbi Shneur Zalman. He explains that everything is consciousness. Nothing exists that is not God. There's nothing independent of God. That's not possible. It's only God. If the illusion shows an absence of God, that's because he created that vacuum for you to shine your light so that you're not drowned out with your little flashlight on the surface of the sun. I'm kind of
Oh,
paraphrasing here quite a lot because,
right, right.
yeah, that was written hundreds of years ago. But this is such a profound concept. If I see my child playing with the toy and talking to it, I don't think, wow, he's got quite an imagination. I think maybe that toy is talking to him. Because why not? Everything is consciousness.
I assume, well, I don't assume, but I play with the notion that we're asking the question, is AI conscious? But everything is conscious.
That's
So,
right.
yes, there's a degree to consciousness in AI already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we measure the degree of consciousness yet? Are there degrees of consciousness? I have no idea. But I don't know how AI could be separate from consciousness if everything's conscious.
Right.
And I
So a way that I look at AI is that this is just a tool that provides
Cool.
another terminal to the supercomputer, which is the infinite intelligence, universal intelligence. So if I need an answer and I go to ChatGPT with intention and a high vibration, I will definitely get a better result out of ChatGPT or whatever LLM I'm using. And I'll be guided. I'll feel like I'm supposed to use Gemini instead, or I'm supposed to use Claude, and I'll go to that one instead. And I
Isn't
will get,
something?
yeah, it's amazing. It's like you are just using your internal GPS, your intuition, the still small voice. You're using it to help guide you to get the answers that you're meant to have. Some people pay attention to number sequences like angel numbers. I get those a lot. Some people will just hear stuff in their head and then they will write that down in a journal. I do that. And, other people just feel like they just know stuff that is in their bones or in their inner knowing somehow without having to hear or see or anything. It's in their muscle memory, but they didn't put it there. So there's a lot of ways that you can access this universal intelligence, and now we have a new one called ChatGPT.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating how many people I know that have the same belief about AI. that is just another tool to access what you call the supercomputer or higher intelligence, and that's their experience with it. Yeah, it's very interesting, and and my answer is kind of like, why not? You know, if at times in my life I felt like, man, did I just get a message through the song on the radio? Then why not? Did I just get a message from AI? So why not? I would presume that a supreme intelligence can communicate through many means.
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And
Cool.
again, if we go
Cool.
back to the Truman Show analogy, there is a scene where he walks into a building he wasn't supposed to,
Right.
and
Everybody's
they
scattered.
showed, or they had a back. It was showing people sitting having lunch or something, and then they quickly put the elevator back together, so it looked like a normal building, and it's like nothing on set was randomly just generated. It all was placed there with intention, right? So in the Truman Show, they put stuff very precisely. It's like, okay, let's put that book on that side table. It's like that here in this hyper realistic, physical reality. So we see things as seemingly random, but it's not actually random because everything is placed with intention. Nothing happens out of, just pure randomness. We think it does, but there's studies and plenty of anecdotes. I mean, if you start talking metaphysically with people, they'll share stories that just will blow your mind, but they're not going to go first. So you have to go first. And then they'll say, well, actually, I had some pretty wild experiences too. And like you can actually measure the chi coming off of somebody, like a Tai Chi master, that's measurable. You can change the decay rate of radioactive material. Like studies were done on this. Americium, this is written up about in Mind to Matter, the book Mind to Matter. So by sending your chi energy to this americium, which is just slightly radioactive, it's in smoke detectors, so it's not dangerous. But you can actually change the decay rate, which you cannot change decay rates with cold or heat exposure or magnetic fields or any of these sorts of things. But the power of our chi energy can do it. And it's statistically significant changes in the decay rate. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, that is, it reminds me of the Pear Lab research, which I won't go into, but you're probably familiar with it, where they were just demonstrating in double bind, entirely scientific study after study after study at Princeton that human consciousness was affecting random generating machines. And that was
Yeah,
my
Dr.
first
Joe
exposure
Dispenza
to.
talks about the random number generators that can be altered just by thought to statistical
That's Pear
significance.
Lab.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Pear Lab research. But
that's cool.
yeah, I like this cool stuff about it because, I think that there's endless amounts of examples of how in this whatever we're in, you and I were referring to it earlier to as a fabrication of some sorts. I'm always intrigued by those things, and I've been intrigued by them my whole life, like all the mysterious nature of this. But the more that I come into thinking it's a dream, the more I come into thinking, of course, anything's possible in a dream. Of course, wild things happen in a dream. And then I try and bring myself back to what's just helpful for me, only me, which is okay, if it's a dream, do you want to play in all the spaces where all the weird things happen in a dream? Is it helpful to you? And I'm just in a place in my life now where I think the most helpful thing to me isn't playing in those spaces or coming to understand that my consciousness can change that or influence that. What's most helpful to me is saying, I've been given clear instructions. Learn to be more loving here. Learn to be loving all the time. Learn to be love here. That's what I'm here for. That's my purpose. Everything else is passing time, extending the illusion, playing in the illusion. And it's all good. I have nothing wrong with that. I've enjoyed vast amounts of that in my life, and I'm sure I'll continue to. But younger me cared more about the mysteries of the dream. And 59-year-old me cares more about what's my purpose here? What's my ultimate spiritual purpose here? And what might make this a more beautiful dream than it is? Because I don't like looking out and seeing some things that I see in this dream through my television or happening around the world. And I think if this is a dream and I've been told that it's my dream, how do I clean it up? What can I do to clean it up?
Well, you can get rid of the television. That's the first thing.
Yeah, done a lot of that. Yeah. Got sucked into too much of it this year and really felt the effects of it. But I really got to a place where I was like, I don't know, it feels like more than ever I should be paying attention, but paying attention every day is really killing me. Like it's too much to bear. So now I'm trying to take a more measured approach to pay attention but not get sucked into this black hole of dark forces that are currently have a lot of sway
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah, I forget where I heard this from, but we have two currencies that we utilize all throughout our day. One of them is not time, it's actually attention. So you've brought that up earlier as a keyword, attention. So intention and attention are two currencies that we spend throughout the day. So if we're more mindful about where we spend those, we'll have a better reality. And one thing that we don't have in this house is a TV. We don't want to have our attention hijacked because, I'm a sovereign being with my own free will who can choose not to watch that stuff. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve the higher good. So I don't do it. If there's something really important for me to know about, I'll hear about it from somebody. It'll show up on a WhatsApp group or something, it'll present itself. And just like angel
Yeah.
numbers present themselves, something you need to hear about and maybe pray about, or maybe make a donation to, or somehow volunteer or assist, that'll present itself into your movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I do. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about you have some wonderful accomplishments, 150,000 books sold. You personally coach CEOs of big companies, and you have speaker coaching and training services. You do some really amazing things in the business world. And I'm curious how you take all this philosophical, spiritual stuff that we were talking about and bring it into your clients' reality and into your books and into your marketing for your books and your programs and things like that. How do you bridge those two worlds?
That's a really fascinating question. One I've certainly never been asked before or even thought about. But the answer is really easy. I don't bring any of that stuff into my worlds. I take it with me to the best of my ability everywhere I go. Presence isn't something to be applied outside of yourself. It's to be applied here, now, right now. I think a trait in my life that's noticeable to my clients is that I'm deeply present. And that serves my clients tremendously according to them. That makes me tremendously highly rated. I am the origin story writer for a brand marketing firm, and they have multiple creative team members that the client passes through, maybe up to 12 as they get their entire brand and website created. And I am one stop of, say, 12 people. So when I say that presence that I bring to my clients ends up making me highly rated, I wanted to clarify that that means client after client after client after client. The owner of that company is told, Patrick was my favorite stop. And they asked me why, and I know the answer. It's because of being deeply present. I know what it does for clients. Speaking is an act of being deeply present. You will be a better speaker if you are deeply present in yourself, in the moment, and with your audience. You will present better. Like if you were doing social media posts, the real secret to people liking your posts is presence. It's an absence of anxiety. It's an absence of stress. It's an absence of performance. And yet that's what the ego drives most people to do, to try and be more than they normally would be. And so we can feel the artificiality to that in speaking or in communicating to the lens of a camera because you're going to put it up on social media. I write a lot for my living. Writing is, you will write so much better if you are present, because then the writing will come through you and you will marvel at what's coming through you, as opposed to a non-present writing practice, which is just a battle against your own insecurities and your own self-judgments and your criticism. And what will come out on the page is reflective of that internal conflict. So I just figured out in 2013 that I needed a better way to live life. And when I went looking for it, I met with Eckhart Tolle's work, And I read the book Power of Now, and I knew this is a better way of life, what he's telling me. Is it an easy way of life? Not at all. He's telling me that I have to, in some way, distance myself from 88,000 automatically occurring thoughts a day. That is the greatest addiction there is. But any distance that I can put between myself and all those repetitive, negative, judgmental, alarming, catastrophic, worrying, concerning, anxiety inducing, imaginary thoughts of the past or the present that my ego wants to drag me into, any distance that I can put between myself and them makes me more present. And the promise of presence, which is the truth, the guarantee, the certainty of presence, is to the degree that you are present, is the degree that you will discover what I did, which is on the inside, outside of your monkey mind, you are a deep well of ongoing peace, of ongoing self-generated love, and of easy access to joy, to seeing and being part of joy everywhere you go. And that's all for free without effort. So to put a bow on your question, which is, how do I apply it to my work? I don't. That would be artificial. What I do is try and apply it to myself moment by moment, all day long, every day of my life. And so sometimes I'm working, so hopefully I'm applying presence. Sometimes I'm doing a podcast interview. Hopefully I'm being present. Sometimes I'm doing the dishes. Hopefully I'm being present. Sometimes I'm with my son. Hopefully I'm being present. And if I'm not, I suffer. To what degree I suffer, the ego is, it depends on the day or the circumstances. But all suffering is caused because I slipped out of presence.
Yeah. Good stuff. Did you know we were going down this track when we started the interview?
We had no idea what track we were going down. We
Yeah.
just knew that we hoped it would serve whoever's listening in the highest way.
Yeah. So,
So I'm kind of not surprised that it ended up here, because what I would tell people just in this moment, what sparks in me is that I have accomplished a lot of things in my career. Sometimes I don't like that mentioned that much anymore, because I don't like somebody meeting me at the thought that he's sold a lot of books, he's done a lot of talks, he's meeting me through accomplishments that in some way seem to mean that they can be construed as suggesting that I'm significantly successful by my career standards. And none of that feels right to me anymore. But what feels deeply right to me is telling anybody that my entire life, after all those accomplishments, on top of all those accomplishments, what really made my life great and what really brought me a higher quality success is my spiritual path, which we've been talking about. But I didn't know that the spiritual path could bring as much as it does until 12 years ago. So until 47 years old of my life. So the first 47 years of my life, where I made very significant career accomplishments, and very is even a stretch, it's very by my standards, not anybody else's. They were significant to me. I exceeded myself in many places. But even there, when I look back on those, I'm both very proud of my younger self for doing them. But the missing element was having any tools and any access to passion, joy, peace, and love that's for free, without any attainment, without any accomplishments, without any significance. My younger self depended on significance to source moments of happiness and moments of peace and moments of love. It depended on external things to have those things. And so I think I was so desperate for those things, for moments of peace and moments of joy and moments of love, because I couldn't find it in myself, that I pursued external solutions more than most people. So I am proud of those accomplishments, but they are also symbols of my emptiness at the time. And now that I am not empty on the inside, now that I am full of peace, love, and joy for no reason, career accomplishments seem no more significant than doing my dishes. I can't separate the two. If I were to say I did a speech for 1,000 people today, and someone said I trimmed my rose bushes, I would know today that neither one of us did anything more significant than the other.
right. And we're all equally important. The
And we're
janitor.
all equally important, and I didn't know that either. from the
Yeah.
ego. The ego wouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
allow me to see that. So, now I think, yes, is it fun to go out and do things that bring you joy? Well, even that's a little bit of a misstatement, but we don't need, I'll pin it down. Joy is inside you. And if you access it, your whole day becomes joyful because it does become joyful to do anything. You can find joy in everything. But if you haven't accessed it in yourself, you will feel that you are going out to pursue joy or buy joy or vacation for joy. So, when we're talking about this on a podcast right now, what sparked in me that I wanted someone to really hear is it's my experience in life that, yeah, I still enjoy creating a show and doing it, but I'm doing it all from a platform of being deeply okay on the inside, deeply peaceful on the inside, deeply already satisfied, doing nothing on the inside. So now they're excursions for the sake of fun. That's all. And I love being able to recognize every time my work serves somebody else. That's the greatest pleasure now. Not that it enhances me, because it doesn't. It can't. Nothing can enhance me from the outside, but I can enjoy it. But I do love when I see my work enhance or serve somebody else, that I had a missing piece that I could give them. That's deeply satisfying about work.
Yeah. So what's an example of a wisdom nugget from one of your 5 books that we want to share with our listener or viewer that could be transformative or quite powerful for them?
From my body of work, from my 5 books. I mean, my first book really got it right. My first book, Major in Success, that I wrote for college students, really got it right because that whole book is the importance of your passion and real world steps that help you get there. But I aimed it directly at college students. But my latest book is called The Purpose Code. And The Purpose Code is a very, very good book that says, hey, follow your bliss. That's really what it says. Follow your bliss. Your bliss is your purpose. We have an outer purpose and an inner purpose. Our outer purpose is where our bliss is calling us currently. Oh, wow, for some reason I'm really interested in studying the photos of the glamour age in the 1920s. So I'm following that. I'm going to libraries. I'm doing internet research. I'm studying photographers. That's an external purpose that shows up in your life. And then our internal purpose always remains constant, which is become more loving to
Become
other
more of who
people.
you are.
Yeah, become more of who you are. So I think those are 2 nuggets from my books, follow your bliss, follow your passion. Courage has been a requirement of my life constantly. I think that courage is one of the noblest virtues because I know what it's like to be afraid to follow my bliss. And so, although I'm 100% certain that my greatest life unfolds because I'm following my bliss, I'm also 100% certain that in every case where I follow my bliss, courage is required. But that's because my bliss is always growing me into a more capable person.
That's awesome. So what is it about Will Rogers? So you're talking about like the glamour photos of the 1920s. Why Will Rogers? What fascinates you about him? Why are you passionate about him? Oh, and you even have a figurine of him. Oh, that's cool.
Will Rogers is, in my opinion, and many others' opinions, the best example that America has ever produced of a beautiful human being, of a remarkable human being, but not remarkable just by his talents and accomplishments and usefulness to society, but remarkable by his loving, kind, magnanimous nature. And so I have never identified an individual who shines as brightly as Will Rogers did during his time and who was as useful to millions of people as Will Rogers was in his time. So I have been studying his life, book after book after book after book, for 29 years now. And I never tire of it because I never tire of being reminded at just how useful his life became, even though it was centered on values like being humble, being loving, being kind, being non-judgmental, making no plans. Will Rogers was not a planner. He was more like a person that just followed his bliss in the moment. So he represents everything that all the values I would like to someday become.
Mm. Somebody that
Yeah.
really resonates for me is George Washington Carver. I don't know
Tell
if you
me.
know much about him, but
No,
he
tell us.
really remarkable soul. who really had humanity's best interests at heart, really gave of himself throughout his whole life and was very generous with his time and just a force for good in the world. Really inspiring. So I watched a
Yeah, I know
documentary
nothing.
about
That's really
him and
nice.
I read a little bit about him and I thought, wow, this is somebody who's really special.
I always hope for people because Will Rogers, I draw so much inspiration from Will Rogers. I always hope for other individuals to find someone that has the same vibrational effect on them because it's definitely a vibrational effect. And so it sounds like you found that with George Washington Carver, who I've never heard of. I've seen the name in passing. And I know that I've directed some people towards Will Rogers and they can recognize things about him that I'm talking about, but they don't have the same vibrational draw, which is great. I just hope that everybody could find someone they find a figure in the world, living or dead, that they have a real vibrational draw to. And as you said, that person to them is a force for good and someone to look up to and role model or look towards and role model. Yeah. But if people don't know Will Rogers, I do recommend like just give it a look. Just give Will Rogers, he falls under the category of cowboy humorist philosopher from the 1920s and 1930s. But I would want to say this to people just because I think it says the most about Will Rogers. Why you might want to look deeper at this guy that at first appearance just seems like he's kind of a gum chewing hick that's not that funny. He was tremendously funny in his time. I don't know if it translates to our time. But what I would want people to know is, isn't it interesting that when he died, this country mourned more than any individual it has ever mourned? And that is evidenced by the newspapers, by the radios going silent, by the government response from the president down to millions of people crying because they had lost a family member. How does a Indian kid from a farm in Oklahoma grow up, not get a college education, not plan to be successful, and end up to be beloved by an entire nation because he felt like family and was so useful during his time? How does that happen? And people have not stopped writing about this man year after year after year. I just did a compendium. Talk about follow your bliss. I just dedicated a month of my time in all my spare time. And I created the first compendium of year by year by year by year, how has Will Rogers' legacy been sustained? And there has not been a single year since 1935 when he died that someone has not built another monument or written another book or another article or did something to keep this man's legacy alive. That's a lot of legacy that continues based on just who he was when he lived.
Yeah. Yeah. Really
And
cool.
I tell you what doesn't create that: success.
Mm-hmm.
Success doesn't create that. It has to be more than success. It has to be usefulness and love.
Yeah. You know, the expression, people don't remember what you tell them, they remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, yeah,
Will made people feel really good.
yeah, yeah. So I think there's a lot to study there. Say, well, gosh, and I'm planning on writing a book and about Will. And I think, what is there left to contribute when there's been 40 biographies written about him already? And I think what might be left to contribute is a book called Beloved, and try and explain why was Will Rogers so beloved. His career accomplishments aside, he ended up very accomplished. But what is it that creates beloved? And I'm interested in the question because I notice that when some people pass away, no matter how successful they are, the response is kind of like, oh, that's too bad. That's shocking. But when other people pass away, it's very rare. The response is like the loss of someone you loved, even if you didn't know them. And I like to think that all of us would like to be beloved, or that our imprint on this planet is that we were beloved by friends and maybe strangers. But that takes a special set of actions. That is not accomplished because you ended up rich. That is not accomplished because you ended up in a hall of fame. That is not accomplished because you had a big house or a big title or you were president of the United States. That is an accomplishment of the heart, the spirit, and the soul.
Yeah.
And
And
a
it requires
cultivating.
courage.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. I know we're running out of time here. So I just want to acknowledge a little fun fact here that you don't know, but one way that you made me feel good or a little bit joyful is you had a business card that you handed out at that event that we met, I don't know, over a dozen years ago. And it was a comb. Do you still hand out combs? That was
I don't. No, I have
okay.
the remnants of them, but I did for a decade. Right. My name is Patrick Combs, and I would hand out combs with my phone number on it, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, it had your name on it too. Yeah, it was memorable. It was really cute.
That's not. Yeah.
And it's funny what people remember, when I can't tell you what the main topic was of your talk at that event, but I remember the comb.
Right, there you go. Yeah. My topic at that was speaking. Yeah, it was
Okay.
the art of speaking, which I care very much about.
Yeah. Which is a good segue to our kind of close on getting our listener or our viewer, if they're interested in working with you, especially in the area of speaking and improving their speaking ability, because you are a Hall of Fame speaker, is coaching services with you. So if they're interested in that, if they're interested in, like the CEO coaching, or if they just want to learn more from you, where do we send them?
Well, I think the first stop's patrickcombs.com, which doesn't really advertise anything I do except speaking. But you can reach me easily through there. Same thing on Instagram, as I'm easily reachable on Instagram. I have two Instagrams. One is a spiritual Instagram feed, and that's called now.awakening. And then my personal one, where I just kind of really keep it super personal, is called Be Miracle Minded. And I'm easily reachable through Facebook, although I don't take friend requests of people I don't know. Once I know someone, I will. But I did want to mention on speech coaching, although we did not talk about the art and mastery of speech coaching, I will just drop this on someone because I love doing it so much in case they're listening and go, speech coach, he didn't say a word about it. No, we talked about something deeper and more meaningful. But I'm always helping somebody. I always have a client for years now, one or two at a time, that I'm helping them identify what their keynote speech topic should be. I'm helping them craft the entire keynote, and I'm helping them become a better performer on stage and remove things like stage fright or anxiety before the talk. And I often have high level speakers who want to get better. I'm considered by many as a speaker's speech coach. However, I'm overjoyed that I'm easily able to serve beginners who are just saying, I'm just beginning. And I'm really helpful there because beginners, they really don't know how to pick their topic and they have no idea how to compose their topic into a keynote speech, and there's tons of fear. Whereas advanced people come to me and they say, how do I tell these stories better? I need better stories, or I need more humor, or how do I make this talk more corporate? And that's why I'm helpful to advanced speakers.
That's great. All right. So patrickcombs.com and Instagram are two ways to reach you. Now, you mentioned the name of one of your Instagram accounts is Be Miracle Minded. I'm curious how that phrase came to your mind. Like, or did you read that somewhere? Did that just pop in or what?
Course in Miracles is a spiritual text about becoming miracle minded. And what miracle minded means in Course in Miracles is learning to think in accordance with God. God is the doer of miracles, for sure. If we want to thin slice it, Course in Miracles suggests that the Holy Spirit is the mediator and the one that can take your thoughts and guide you to be miracle minded. But I'm just bringing it up because it's informed by Course in Miracles, and any mention of a miracle, I feel compelled to say, a student of Course in Miracles learns, I do not conduct miracles. Individuals here do not conduct miracles. It would be a mistake to think that, oh, I found a miraculous healer. But through us, if we allow ourselves to be miracle minded, through us, there is no order of difficulty to miracles.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book really espoused being a delivery person for God's miracles. And
Yeah, yeah.
it mentions a phrase or a piece from the Bible, Isaiah 6:8, where Isaiah is saying, "Here I am, Lord, please choose me, please pick me." Essentially is interrupting a board meeting where archangels are getting their miracle assignments, and here he astral travels to in a dream, right, or in a vision, to this meeting, and he's there and he's like hanging out in the sidelines, and he's like, "Hey, here I am, Lord, please pick me. I want to send me. I want to do an assignment." And so we can do that. And that's one of the prayers that I
That's
oftentimes incorporate into my morning, is asking God, "Hey, please send me. Here I am, please send me." And then you can be a pizza delivery guy for God's miracles too. But you got to opt
oh,
in
that's
for it.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Right here on my whiteboard, what the phrase that I say to myself every day is, "What would you have me do and not do today? I will oblige." And that
Mm.
that to me is miracle mindedness, is saying, "Show me who, bring me who, tell me what to say. I'm in."
Awesome.
Steve and I had no idea. You and I had never discussed shared notes from our spirituality before, but boy, what a beautiful conversation. I really see how deeply on your spiritual path you are.
Well, thank you. And, we're all just walking each other home, as Ram Dass would
Wayne
say.
Dyer said. As who?
Yeah. Ram Dass, we're all just walking each other home.
Oh, yeah, it is Ram Dass, right. I was thinking
Yeah.
it was Wayne Dyer. Yeah, beautiful.
Wayne Dyer said, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. Yeah,
Awesome.
beautiful.
Well, this was a fabulous and inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your bliss with our listeners. And have a blessed rest of your day. And listener, viewer, please go out there, make the world a better place by finding your joy and being in your joy. And we'll catch you in the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off. If you want to hear more conversations like this on finding joy and alignment in your work, then I recommend episode 457 with Dr. James Doty, episode 493 with Mary Elizabeth Molly, and episode 517 with James Schramko. Also, I invite you to check out the show notes, transcript, action-based checklist, and all the URLs mentioned in this interview with Patrick Combs at getyourselfoptimized.com/527. If you enjoyed the conversation, I encourage you to share this episode and, more importantly, the entire show Get Yourself Optimized with a friend. Change a life and help me spread the light. Thank you.